Hello and welcome. We have a few minutes before we're getting started, so type in the chat where you are from and what you want to get out of today's session. Yeah, so I'm just waiting. Here's how I can share my music. And welcome. As you are filing in, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on the Zoom, just type in the chat where you're from and what you hope to get out of today's session. Okay, if you're on YouTube now, you should be able to see my screen. Is everyone doing today? Hello. As you are filing in, just let me know in the chat where you're from and what you want to get out of today's session. And I will make sure that I cover that the best I can. I'm excited to be here and talking with you guys. Hi, Angela, Anne, Jan. Welcome. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. I just wanted to give time for people to get settled. Get your coffee, get your water, get your comfy pants on. We are going to have a good time. YouTubers, as you are hopping in, let me know where you are from. I always enjoy that. And we are going to get started in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes. How is everybody this morning? Can y'all hear me okay? Am I muted? Is that the problem? If you can hear me, type it in the chat. Just say hi. Hello from Bradford, Ontario. Hi, Angela. Thank you. Anne, is it getting cold in Ontario? Are you freezing yet? I talked to someone earlier today from Michigan, and I was like, oh yeah, long winters up north for sure. All right, we have 1 more minute and then I am going to get us started. It's so good to see everyone that's filing in. Hello, Gloria. And then we'll start in just a minute. I'm excited to talk through this topic today with you, and you will get to see some of the method of my madness of how I help people move forward and how I help decide where people need to start. So, yeah, judge for yourself. Judge for yourself what you think about it, but I'm going to show you how my brain works. So there we go. It's going to be entertaining. How about that? Okay. We are going to get started. And because I'm faith-based, because my faith has done so much for me in healing as part of my journey, I like to start with a prayer. So I'm going to do that. You do not have to be a faith-based person to be part of this event or to be part of Brave Widow. So you're welcome to a moment of silence. You're welcome to your own personal reflection, but I'm just going to dive in with prayer because that's how I roll. So, dear Heavenly Father, Thank you for the opportunity to be here together today and for the technology that allows us to coordinate all of that. And thank you for the amazing people who are able to join live and who are going to be watching this later and who want to learn more about their journey and about how they can move forward into the plans and dreams that you have for them that sometimes, especially at first, are really hard to see. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. Okay, so we are here to talk about what is next. So I notice I have some folks with me. Oh, hello, welcome, welcome. Go ahead as you join, if you don't mind, to type in the chat where you're from. I think that's always fun. So, just a reminder for people who, if you're on the Zoom, if you're on the YouTube, you just put everything in the chat. If you're on Zoom, then at the bottom of your screen, there should be a chat button that you can click. You can type in the chat. That should just go at this point to the host, which is me. So what you share with me, if I feel that it's private, I'm not going to share all your private details. You don't have to worry about that. But it just like helps me know what's resonating with you, what you're struggling with, what's confusing. It's just like gives me direction on where to take the discussion today. Although obviously I have a prepared outline, but it lets me know where I may need to dig in and spend a little bit more time. So you can use emojis. You can just type out what you're thinking in the chat, and I can make some adjustments as possible. And then you also should have a Q&A box. So if you're on the Zoom, there's a specific box for Q&A. So if sometimes what happens is the chat like fills up or people get real excited, which is like the best. But then sometimes questions get lost in the chat. So if you could use the Q&A box, that will help us all stay organized and on track with that. So I'm going to share my story. I know we have some new folks that have signed up and that are here. I am going to spend a few minutes just on my story, who I am, why I'm talking to you today. Then I'm going to walk you through the 4 stages of widowhood, how I have experienced them, and how I have been able to think about where people are in those stages and what will take them to the next level. This isn't a cookie cutter approach. This isn't something for you to use against yourself to say, oh, I should be further along, or, oh, I think I'm kind of in 2 stages, right? This is just to kind of illustrate the overall journey of what it's like moving through grief and widowhood and beyond. And in each of those stages, what I recommend, like what I look for, what are the gaps that if people have missed something in stage 1 and they're trying to be over here on stage 3, how I pull us back to stage 1 and say, let's address these gaps and these foundations, and then let's start building on that. And that will help propel you forward faster without feeling like you're constantly just getting smacked back down. So I'm going to share that. Then I also, for those of you who haven't joined Brave Widow, our guests with us today, welcome. And shout out to the Brave Widow people that are here because, of course, you guys are the best. And I love seeing your names in the chat. But for people that haven't joined, I would love to share what I call a fast action bonus. But because it's almost Black Friday, I'm going to do a better than Black Friday bonus if you choose to sign up between now and Sunday. So if you would like me to share details about that, please say yes in the chat. If you don't want to hear about it, I won't talk about it. But if you would like to know what it is, what that looks like, put yes in the chat, and I will cover that at the end. Yes, Angela from Texas. Woohoo! Yeah, we just lost to the Longhorns. Recently in Arkansas football, and it was a little bit sad, but Texas is doing really well in their college football, so I can't say a whole lot about that. So if you will put in the chat something that you hope to get from today's event and learning about where you are, how you can move forward, what the stages are, any of that, then put that in the chat and I will do my best to make sure that I cover that or I point you to a resource to help you with that. Angela says the Cowboys stink. Well, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not, and sometimes Arkansas people love the Cowboys. It just really depends. So, okay, let me share my story with you. So 3 just let's see, it's been a little over 3 years ago now. While today I have a life that I love and I enjoy and I have adventures that I go on, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. While that is true today, if you would have asked me 3 years ago that if I ever would have thought I would be sitting here, the answer would be absolutely not. Because 3 years ago, I was so consumed by my own raw grief that I wanted to die myself. Just over 3 years ago, I watched as an ambulance took my husband of just under 20 years. We were 3 weeks short of 20 years. They took him from our home, and I had worked in healthcare for right at 20 years. And so I told my kids, like, don't worry about it. They're going to take dad to the hospital and he's going to be fine because hospitals are where people go to get better, right? Um, After he was in the hospital, he spent 11 days in ICU. I was invited to meet with the attending physician in the family room just to talk about the ups and downs of this journey and to learn about the next steps on this road to recovery. But there wouldn't be any. In fact, there wouldn't be any warmth, any kindness, any smiles. In just a very cold and flat tone, the physician would say, "We think your husband's brain dead." In that moment, my whole world just stopped, and I tried to wrap my mind like, how did we get here? How is this even possible? We're having that conversation. Hours later, I would be suited up in protective gear. This is right during COVID times. And I would be just shaking, standing at the bedside of my husband, sobbing, my plastic face mask all fogged up. I can't even hardly see. And just realizing that my husband wasn't there anymore. How in the world was I going to go home and tell my 4 kids that their dad had died? 3 weeks later, I had scheduled family and friends to come over to celebrate mine and Nathan's 20th wedding anniversary. And instead, on that same day, as you can see in my picture, I had even already bought the t-shirts. I'd already planned it out. It's going to be great. But instead, 3 weeks later, after Nathan died, I found myself facing that day crushed by sorrow as a widow and now somehow a solo mom to 4 teenagers. A few months later, it was fall that same year, I had this very memorial garden built in Nathan's memory. It was in our side yard, and I thought it would be great to have this as a place that I could remember him and a place that I could go and think fondly of him, right? But instead of loving this garden, I hated it. It tormented me every day because it was a reminder that Nathan was never coming back. And so I remember distinctly one afternoon, I was sitting on this bench in this picture, and I was sobbing my eyes out, crying just out of desperation, and my chest hurt so bad. I thought my heart was going to burst right then and there. I knew how a surviving spouse could die from a broken heart because in that moment, I also wanted to die. And then I thought about my 4 kids and how essentially they had already lost their dad. And even though technically I was still alive, I still felt very dead on the inside. And so effectively, They had lost two parents. It was out here that fall afternoon, sitting on that bench, that I decided that I was going to live for them. I chose that whatever it was going to take, I was going to figure out how to get on this other side of grief and be able to enjoy life again, or at least even have a life that was tolerable. Because I'm a high achiever, I did all the things. I ordered all the books. I dove into courses. I talked with other widows. I hired a coach. I even I went and got two certifications, one with the Faith-Based Coaching Academy and one with the Grief Recovery Institute. And I even launched a podcast. That podcast is just now 2 years old. But on there, I have interviewed over 100 different widows and widowers. And on that podcast, we laughed together, we cried together, we learned together, and we healed together. I'm so happy to share that now I have gone on lots of other adventures. I have learned how to not only heal my heart, but create a life that I love again. And I even this year got remarried to an amazing man named Robert there. And I even gained a bonus son in the process. So, as I work with widows and as I help coach widows, my goal is not only to help people with healing their heart and processing the hurt and loss of what they've experienced, but to view that as the foundation of where we start and to help them rebuild a life that they can actually love again. In many cases, widows can learn how to survive. They don't always learn how to thrive and how to start living again. And so that's my goal. I've been coaching widows, and we also have the Brave Widow community, which you'll get to hear a little bit about as we get into the discussion. I think I'm going to have this cough the rest of my life, guys. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know it's can be annoying, but just bear with me on that, please. Okay, so as we dive into the content today, I want to start out by just kind of setting the tone here. The first thing that I want to say to you is that it's not your fault that maybe you don't know this, maybe you've never been told this. I really haven't seen this articulated in this way anywhere else. And for me, it felt very much my calling to try to pull together a way to illustrate to people what the stages of widowhood are. Have you guys heard of the 5 stages of grief? If you've heard of the 5 stages of grief, put it in the chat. Give me an emoji, give me something. Yes. Yes. So we've heard of the 5 stages of grief. And if you don't know, it actually was not created for people, for widows or people who had lost a dying person. It was actually created for someone who was given a terminal illness and their stages through acceptance of that in the end. So, yes, thumbs up. Thank you. So if you've heard of the 5 stages of grief, a lot of times people get frustrated with that because it just doesn't resonate. And the reason it doesn't resonate, you feel like you're on stage 1, stage 4, stage 2, stage 3, stage 5, stage 1. There are lots of reasons for why that happens, and I can't teach you all of that in an hour. I can't teach you all of that today. But the basic way, the simple way I would think about it is that it was created not for you. It was created with a person in mind who had a terminal diagnosis and was moving towards acceptance of their own mortality. So if the 5 stages of grief don't resonate with you, that's why. The 4 stages of widowhood that I'm going to walk you through are not a cookie cutter approach. Okay. So you may feel that you're in different stages in different areas of your life, or you may feel like, oh, I think I'm in 2 stages. We're not here to categorize or label people or any of that. But I did want a way to illustrate the journey and a foundational way to say, before you really love your life, you have to work on healing your heart and processing that. At least start that, or this is always going to be super painful and volatile and difficult. And so, for simplicity's sake, I put it as 4 stages. I'm going to walk you through that. This is also not an invitation to use it against yourself. So it's not an invitation for you to say, "Oh, I should be a lot further along by now. Oh gosh, why didn't I know this already? Why didn't somebody tell me this? Why didn't I see it this way?" This we're all here learning together, and when I was first a widow, there was so much different disparate information out there. It was incredibly overwhelming. No one explained this to me this way either. So please don't use it against yourself. Let's just come with an open mind and an open heart and see what resonates with you. So the 4 stages of widowhood, as I think of them and as I teach them, we're going to walk through each one by one. Okay, we have devastation, very first part, which is survival mode. We have desperation, which is maintenance mode. We have exploration, which is discovery mode. And then creation, which is manifestation. So as we go through these, if any of them resonate with you, or even if they were you in the past, let me know in the chat, hit me with an emoji, type something in to let me know, like, oh yeah, that was me. I saw that. I did that. So the first stage here is devastation. Okay. How I visualize widowhood when we are first widowed is like a tornado that has gone through our neighborhood. We wake up one day and our house is like still there. The grocery store's still there. The post office is still there, but everything's different now. It feels different. It looks different. It's the same, but it's not the same. One story that I like to share in what we experience in this survival mode is as we're in this like truly survival mode, the part of our brain that operates on keeping you safe, that operates on fight or flight, so you've heard that a lot, that gets you all keyed up, gets that adrenaline going, gets your nervous system like ready to do something here, right? That part of your brain is in charge. And part of that is because it is trying to keep you safe. Your brain is trying to help you survive and to be ready for, whatever else is coming, because this has totally disrupted your world. It also is there to protect you at times from feeling all of the feels. Okay. Even though you may feel crushed, you may not think that you are feeling everything. Your brain is creating this sense of haziness and fogginess and confusion because it doesn't want your body to feel everything as devastatingly painful as it feels it. So when that happens, when that part of your brain is active and it creates this like fog that comes over us, the part of our brain that thinks logically, that sees things clearly, that's really creative, that feels calm, that part of the brain is in the back seat. And so that's why we hear some of those adages like, oh, don't make any big decisions in the first year or two, or oh, I can't remember anything, like I live on reminders and I used to have post-it notes everywhere and I still live or die by my calendar, right? Is because this intense part of our brain is hyperactive at this stage and it keys up your nervous system to be in this fight or flight mode. The one story I like to tell is a few days after Nathan died, I was setting out all of the important paperwork for the probate attorney to put his estate through probate. And I remember I was like setting these stack of papers here, these stack of papers here. I put the car titles in this other stack over here. And I was like, okay, I'll have these stacks. So that way I know I'll remember where I put them and I can come get them, tomorrow when I need them. I left my office. I come back the next day. I gather all my papers and I'm like, wait, where are the car titles? Like, I know I put them right here and I know I set them aside separately so I'd remember where they are, but where are they? For 2 days, I would spend hours looking for these car titles. I'm talking pulling out every file folder I had, flipping one piece of paper over at a time, pulling out bags of trash, looking in the laundry room, looking in my bedroom, thinking, oh, maybe I put them in my safe, going and looking there. I could not find these car titles anywhere. A year later, I would find those car titles in my kitchen, which is on the opposite end of the house from my office, in a silverware drawer that I use once a year, twice a year. Now, how in the world I was in such a zombie state of mind that I picked up those car titles and went and put them in the silverware drawer? I have no idea. I, to this day, do not remember doing that. But when you are in this phase, that's not all that uncommon. Your brain is so foggy and burdened with pain that that's how that feels. I fear I've been in that fight or flight mode for so long, my brain is stuck. Well, yes, that can happen. And the good news is we can get you unstuck. So how do we get out of devastation? How do we get out of survival mode where we are in this fight or flight, like our nervous system is all keyed up and our nerves feel like they're on fire and every tiny thing that happens just feels like, impending doom? How I think about this is our goal when you're in this stage is when you feel like you're drowning is to give you air to breathe. Okay. So in those early days, weeks, months, the way that we help your brain breathe is a few different ways. One is by giving you tactical physical support. So getting people to help you with things around the house, getting people to call credit card companies for you, getting someone to be your liaison and help coordinate help on your behalf. I have a whole section in Brave Widow about how to ask for help as a widow. And for family and friends, I actually created a little guide for them in a video series of how to help widows because we have this really big gap, which is a whole nother lesson, between widows who want and need help but are embarrassed or ashamed to accept it, and people who want to help and have no idea how and don't want to overstep. And so my goal is to bridge this gap and get the widow like the tactical physical support that they need so that they can breathe a little bit out from under all these to-dos. The other component of what we do is create a sense of routine for you. So when you don't have a routine, it just feels like stuff's just hitting you left and right? You're just getting smacked around by all the things that have to be done. It feels like every time you turn around, there's 5 more things that need to go on the to-do list. I remember telling my dad, like, I am so discouraged. I'm a go-getter. I'm an organized person, but I am putting 3, 4, or 5 things on my to-do list every day, and I'm only able to take off 2 things. Like, I am just drowning and I see no end in sight. It's just going to be an avalanche of stuff to do that I can't get through. So I teach people how to create a routine, how to do time blocking, which is how we figure out how to prioritize your to-dos, how to schedule them on your calendar, and how to do it in a way that feels manageable. We also focus a lot on self-care, which I know people throw that term out there very loosely. How I think about self-care here is what fills your cup back up, what allows your body and your nervous system to go from this to like, even though we don't want to distract from grief, we don't want to suppress it, we don't ever want to process it, but at the same time, your body and your mind needs a break. And so there are things that we want to insert as part of your life that helps you have those moments where you can let go. It helps you to get out of this mode where you just feel burned out, resentful, bitter, cynical, all of those things, like you're just literally irritable and on edge. It starts to help your nervous system to calm down, and it starts to tell your body, like, and your brain, I'm safe. I'm safe. It's okay. I'm safe. I know you're trying to keep me safe. I know you're trying to keep me alert, I'm safe, I'm okay. We want to get your nervous system like back to a normal state. This is also a really important I need to go. Oh, no worries. Thank you for dropping by, and I'll send out the replay, so that's no problem. Uh, you made me wanna double check the recording was on, but it's on, so we're good. Okay. We also want to focus on emotional healing and just validation of that this is awful. What has happened? This is bad. It's awful. It sucks. This is where we are. We want to be able to sit in it, to feel it, to have a witness to it. Um, we want to be able to heal our heart and start that process. Spiritual connection, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but that is a component. And what you'll see over here are different step-by-step systems of what I've developed to help people get out of these stages and move on to the next one. So, in Brave Widow, in our mastermind replays, there's a whole, I think it's 5 videos of moving from chaos to calm. Okay. So, what are the things like emotional healing? Like, how do you set up a routine? How do you tackle all the to dos and do all, like, we teach all of that in there so that you can check these boxes, if you will, and start to come out of survival mode and move to the next one. So the second stage is desperation, and that's living in maintenance mode. So a few months, well, a week or two after Nathan died, I went back to work because we had been so horribly sick for weeks, and I was desperate for a sense of normalcy. I had a very wonderful and yet demanding job, so I traveled a lot. And the crock pot was my best friend when it came to making meals for my kids. And I really got into this new routine. It probably took me about 6 months to get there, where I felt like I was getting my feet underneath me. Everything wasn't just so overwhelming, but then this reality started setting in of like, oh, is this it? Like, this is my life now? This is wait, this is a mistake. This isn't possible. Like, how did my life become this new routine of waking up, going to work, dealing with the kids, having dinner, doing stuff around the house? Every weekend was mowing and weed eating and taking care of things around the house. And my life was for everyone else but for me. And it was just like this robotic maintenance mode. I really I can live, but I really don't like my life like this. That was the mode that I'm here in maintenance mode. So as we think about what helps us move out of maintenance mode to our next stage of widowhood, a lot of what I focus on with widows here is building confidence. So as we have lost our thought partner and we've lost our safety net, there's a lot of confidence that typically widows will lose. I share a story that after Nathan died, I installed like a Security Max camera system at my house that wasn't reliant on Wi-Fi apps because I didn't want anyone to hack it and I didn't want anyone spying on me, and I wanted a driveway alarm and a house alarm and all of this stuff because I just didn't feel safe anymore. So I was doing all of, and I stockpiled like lots of money into my savings because I was just so afraid something would happen. And I was just looking for all of these things of security because I didn't feel safe anymore. And so here we really focus on, okay, now that you are not just trying to survive every day, now that you're getting your feet underneath you and you're building a routine, we want to build up that confidence. We want to teach you how to create a board of advisors around you to help you make decisions, to create what it takes to create safety mentally, emotionally, physically, how to have healthy boundaries with family and friends and new people that you meet, where you may not want the same dynamic with the family and friends that you had because so much has changed. We also start talking about redefining your identity and what that looks like, because so much of your identity has been a wife and has been as a married person. And now you're like, I don't even know who I am. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I like. So these are the key things that we start to work on. So the system that I teach people here, we call it the self-trust system, is all about building confidence in yourself, building confidence in your ability to make decisions, and being able to follow through on things and to do things that you want to be able to do. Maybe it's being able to travel or taking up a new hobby or, you know, doing something very different, but we teach you what the key components of confidence are. All right. So, as you are moving like out of maintenance mode, we get into this. I call it like we're embracing a little messiness here in exploration mode. So, how many of you, tell me in the chat, how many of you have tried doing new things or tried going to new places or meeting new people or like tried to move forward and then feel like it just didn't work? Feel like you were stuck, feel like you wasted your time, feel like, ugh, what's the point? Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this stage is exploration. In the fun in in the fun. In the beginning it's not very fun, okay? In the beginning it's very messy. In the beginning it's like a toddler taking their steps for the first time. And it's like you're going. You're like I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Bam, fall down. Okay, let's try again. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Ah, and so that is what exploration is like in the beginning. It could look like, for example, I wanted to, I was interested in real estate investing. We had never done it. I didn't know anything about it. I wanted to check it out. And so I thought, okay, well, I don't know. Should I go? Should I not go? I went in my truck. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes. Okay, I sat in the parking lot and I debated whether or not to walk in. My mind was telling me all the things. What are you doing? This is a waste of time. You don't know anyone here. You're not an investor. What are you doing in there? You don't even know where the bathrooms are. Who are you going to sit by? What if they're not nice to you? What if they ask you all these questions and you don't know the answers? And what if they say that you have to be an investor first? And what if they are look down their nose at you? And what if, everyone's going to know that you're a widow, even though I don't know how they would know. That's what we think. Like we have this flashing sign that points at us, right? There's all this mind drama around why I shouldn't go in there. And one of the reasons that is that's part of our brain trying to keep me safe. Okay. So our brains don't like new things. It doesn't like things it's not familiar with. Your brain wants to run on autopilot. It wants comfort, familiarity, and pleasure. It doesn't like being put in these new situations. So when you try to go to new places, you try to meet new people, you try to do new things, your brain is telling you, no, 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 that's not safe. That's not safe. You've never been in there. You don't know what's in there. That could be dangerous. You need to be on edge and you need to be on alert. So that's one of the reasons why this exploration mode is hard because you're having to coach yourself and you're having to work through all these negative, I call them like thought spirals. It's like one starts and then 20 more come right after it. Okay. You also have those thoughts of like, oh, well, your person isn't here and what would he think? And what's the point of doing this? And who do you think you are? And isn't this too soon? And hasn't it been, or has it been too long? And, you're kind of older now too. You may not be able to learn this kind of stuff. It may be too late for you. Like all of the guilt and sadness that comes with some of this exploration. So in the beginning, it's very messy. And what I just tell people is we're going to embrace the messy. And as one of my coach friends says, we're just going to navigate the messiness with grace. Okay. I'm going to teach you how to connect with other people. So if you are a homebody introvert who hates small talk, doesn't know what to say, doesn't like large groups of people, guess what? That's me. I've got you. It's okay. I want to teach you how to get out, how to meet other people, how to make friends, how to be able to do what I did, which is sit there for a few minutes, get up and go inside. And I would end up 2 years later being asked to present to that entire group of real estate investors and teach them about overcoming mindset objections when it comes to real estate investing. And I thought, dang, a lot's changed in 2 years. Like, look at me. And being able to share that story, that can be you too. So, exploration is typically where people start to feel like this is what it is to move forward. I'm going to try to build up my social circle. I'm going to try to build up new hobbies and new interests and just try them out. Like I tried a line dancing class, I tried a pottery class, I tried all kinds of different things. And maybe they're not long-term hobbies for me, but number one, it gives our brain a break from the monotony of this maintenance mode. And number two, it opens the door for new connections, for new things that you want to put in your calendar and all of that stuff. Yes, I don't know who I am or what I like. That's okay. That's okay. It's perfect. You will be able to figure that out and you will be able to decide who you want to be and what kind of life you want. And part of this exploration phase is like figuring it out, you know? I thought a lot about what do I want 5 years from now and 10 years from now because I thought I always knew what I wanted. But after Nathan died, I didn't want some of that stuff anymore. And I just thought, well, that was what we wanted together. I don't know that I want to do that by myself, like some of the dreams that we had. So what do I want to do? Well, I knew like I liked traveling and I liked even though I was a homebody for most of my life, I was like, I want a life with some stories to tell. I want a life with some adventure with when people ask me like, "Hey, what have you been doing?" or "What's going on?" I always want something to tell them, like something I've done or something I'm gonna do. I don't want to be that person that's like, "Oh, school, work, this whole stuff." Like, I want to be able to have stories to share. Um, and so it's hard because you can't I call it like it's like a path through the woods, right? You can't see around the corner. You can't know 100% that what's in front of you is meant for you and that's going to be just a beautiful thing. And this exploration, it's full of mountains and valleys and rivers and monsters and all of the things, but it's worth the journey. So, as I am working with people and they're in this kind of exploratory discovery mode phase, these are the things that we do. We've already started redefining your identity and figuring out who you're going to be going forward. We are looking for direction and clarity. We're trying new things, we're meeting new people, we're testing things out to see what feels good, to see what lights you up inside. So the systems I use for that is the move forward method, which I actually just taught this one yesterday. And that's uploaded now. And then connection protocol is all about relationships and boundaries and what is healthy there. So this is what that looks like is saying, I think I want a life where I travel and where I go to conferences and where I learn. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn new things. So I'm going to start doing those things and seeing how it feels and figuring it out. And yeah, that's where we start with this exploration phase. This is also a mode where a lot of people give up because it can be in the beginning very discouraging, but also as you start to go through it and you start to um, make new friends and you start to find things that you really enjoy, then it starts to become exciting because you're like, oh wow, I I do get to create a new life. My life isn't over. Like I can change what I thought I would be doing. I know widows. I talk a lot about Sue. She's working on her third book. She never would have thought she'd have published a book. She's traveled to many other states. I've been to 4 other countries in the last 3 years. That's been amazing. We have widows who have changed careers, who have started businesses, who have changed years and years and years of family dysfunction and generational trauma, and they're changing their family tree, which is like amazing. And we just have people that are embracing life, and that's I'm going to stop talking about it, but I just love it. Okay. Creation is manifestation mode. Now, don't check out on me if you're not a woo-woo kind of a person, okay? I know manifestation is just different people think of it different ways. And how I think of it, how I choose to think of it, is that if we look at time in the future, there is a version of you who loves their life. who is confident, bold, and courageous, who has a social circle of people who cares about them, who supports them, who cheers them on, who sits with them in the sorrow. You have a life that lights you up inside, that sets your heart on fire for something, that makes you, I used to say it makes my heart sing. Like it just fills me with purpose and meaning. And it gives me that feeling of like, yes, I was born for this, right? There is a version of you right now that exists in the future where that is true. And you have the ability to tap into that and to pull that forward to the person that you are now sooner than you think. So, one of the stories that I share here, there's a whole model that I teach, and I won't get into it because I don't have enough time to do it justice. But basically, there's a model that I teach where we think, well, when I have all the things, when I have confidence is the easy one. When I have confidence, then I'll travel, then I'll go out and eat by myself, then I'll do fun things, and then I'll be a confident person. And we flip that on its head. And what I teach you to do is to say, I'm going to embody the confident person today. Okay. If I were the confident version of me, if I'm that future version of me now, what would I be doing differently? Well, I would be traveling. I would be going to conferences. I would be making new friends. I would be doing all of that. And once I do that, then I have confidence. If I wait until I'm confident to do something, I'll be waiting forever. If I waited until I was confident to start Brave Widow, I don't know that ever would have happened. I had to embody this version of me right now. I had to embody that 2 years ago when 5 people watched my podcast, when 0 people showed up on webinars, when I couldn't sell something for $7. I had to tap into this version of me back then and show up anyway and try to project the confidence and the passion and all of those things back then so that I could be here today and not 10 years from now or 20 years from now. So as you're thinking about another example I'll give here is when I was mostly sure that I wanted to date and remarry again. I knew for sure I wanted a companion. I knew for sure I wanted to date. I wasn't for sure I wanted to remarry, but I thought, okay, what is my life going to look like? Well, I'm not going to sit in my house all weekend, and I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to live for me and my kids and everyone who demands things of me, who needs things from me. I'm going to do things that feel good for me and that help fill my cup so I'm not the irritable, cranky mom that is totally burnt out and introverted and peopled out and all of that. So I was like, maybe I would like the symphony. I don't know. I've never done that before, but let's try it and let's just buy season tickets. So then I've spent the money. I know I need to go. It's like once a month on a Saturday night, go. And I'm not just going to do that. I'm going to buy 2 tickets. Okay. So once a month, every Saturday, I would get all dressed up, literally in a dress, do my makeup and my hair. I would take myself out to dinner. I would go to the bookstore, wherever else I wanted to go that day. And then I would go to the symphony and I would sit next to an empty chair. And yes, in the beginning, it was awkward and weird. And I just knew everybody was looking at me like, look at that person sitting by herself. She must be a widow. Look at that weirdo over there. Like I just knew everybody was staring at me. Nobody was, right? I did that for a whole season. But do you know how amazing it felt the first time that Robert and I went to the symphony and sat side by side? And the joy that I felt in knowing that I was manifesting that back the year before, 6 months before, that I was willing to do the hard and the weird and the awkward and I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it anyway, so that I could attract a person who liked going to symphonies and liked going out and liked doing things together. And that I could sit there and go, wow, I'm not sitting next to an empty seat anymore. I have someone here, and I've been preparing for them to be here this whole time. This doesn't just have to apply to dating, it could apply to anything that you wanna do. When I first took my kids, let's see, Nathan died in July of 21. I took my kids March of 22 to Clearwater, Florida. They'd never been on a plane. They'd never been to the beach. Nathan's anxiety did not make it easy to travel with a whole herd of people. But I had decided, like, I want to travel. I want to travel with my family. I want to be able to share things with my kids that I've experienced, that I've enjoyed. And so, yeah, the first trip was bittersweet. I was teary eyed at times. It was hard taking those family pictures of us walking on the beach together. It was weird saying party of 5 instead of party of 6. It was hard saying, oh, well, where's dad? Oh, well, he's dead. Okay, I didn't say it like that. But it was hard and weird and awkward and all of those things. But as I did that over time, then we just went in July on a 2-week trip to Australia, New Zealand, and Hawaii. Okay? Like, you have to start thinking about for your future what you want that future version of you to be, and to start manifesting and pulling it forward. And I can help you do that. So, when people are in this exploration phase, it's not really clear what you want. And so you can start to do some of that now, because you may say, well, I want to be confident. I want to do this. I want to do that. And you may have some clarity with what you want, and you can start manifesting those things now. For other things, you may not know what you want, and that's okay. You can still be exploring. But as you're starting to figure out, like, this is what I want, then I will teach you what you need to not be in those negative thought spirals, to not talk yourself out of it, to not beat yourself up over it, but to baby step by baby step, move forward and start creating the life that you want and that you can love for your future. And then the module that the system that I have here is called the Discover Your Purpose Plan, because this is really where you get to blossom and you spread your wings and you're like, this is it. I love my life. This is amazing. And I am so grateful that I have a God that can expand my heart to love more people, to bring more people in my life, to give me abundance and joy and peace when it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense to me that I love my life and I can be happy and I'm able to honor the life that I had with Nathan and be so grateful for the time we had together. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's something that only God can do and that we can do through these experiences, but it is possible. So, just one more thing that I want to show you, and then I'm going to ask you if you have identified. Actually, I'll go ahead and ask you what is one thing that you have decided that you want to focus on next. So be thinking about that. We're going to come back to that. So I talked about a lot today, and if it feels like, oh, this is not really clear, it's confusing, it's over my head, it's fine. I try to simplify it. And this is why I love working with people in the community or working with people one-on-one or both, because I can just baby step us through the process. But as I think about it, I'm not perfect. This is how my brain works, is okay, we've talked about the 4 stages of widowhood. We've talked about the systems that help us to move forward. And so when we have someone that's struggling up here, right? They're trying to move forward and they can't. They're trying to discover their purpose and they just have apathy. They just can't do it. I always start down here, and some of the questions that I ask is to help me figure out where are the gaps down here. So if somebody's still struggling a lot with grief, if somebody still feels guilty or feels like there's some unclosed loops or unresolved things, then I start them down here. And we're able to move through these pretty quickly because they may have, several of these filled in, but we always start down here with, okay, what's the foundation that we need to build on? And as you shared, as you so kindly shared in the chat, where you're like, I just feel like I'm stuck in fight or flight mode. Like, that's the first thing, is to get you out of that. Because when you're in fight or flight mode, then you're in a difficult spot to want to try new things or to meet new people or to figure out what your purpose is. You're like, I'm just still surviving over here. You know, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I feed the kids most of the time. We have peanut butter sandwiches the other part of the time. Like, I'm just trying to survive here. I can't even fathom like trying to do some of this other stuff. It's because you still have some things down here that we can work on. But that's the good news. Like, you're normal. Nothing's gone wrong. There's nothing that can't be fixed. And I just talked to a widow yesterday that was feeling really discouraged. And she said, I should be further along. It's been 12 years for me and I'm still really having a hard time. I should be further along. I'm like, well, don't beat yourself up. It's okay. Nothing's gone wrong here. There's nothing that we can't address. It's nothing that people teach. People don't teach us about grief and processing loss. So don't beat yourself up that you feel like it's been so many years, you should be further along. Sigh in comfort in knowing that now you have the blueprint to move forward. Like, now you know what are some of the things that you could work on or want to work on, or that there's a defined process in how you can move forward. Be relieved that that's possible. It would be awful if I said, well, 12 years. Yeah, too long for you. Sorry. Can't teach that old dog new tricks. Can't break that cycle. It's been too ingrained in your brain. You spend too long. Can't do it. No, it doesn't matter where you are. We just start here and we work our way forward. And I have people that come to me at all different stages. Some people are already in that exploration phase. I met with someone earlier today, and I was like, "Oh, you're exploring already. This is great." Like, we're going to propel you forward. It's going to be amazing. So, but many people start here, and that's perfectly fine. So, put in the chat for me one thing that you learned today that you want to focus on that will help you move forward, even if it's one tiny baby step. It doesn't matter. Forward is forward. So type that in the chat for me. And then I know we are running short on time, but for people that are not part of the community, have never heard of it, don't know what it is, while you're thinking on the one thing that you want to move forward. Oh, let me check my Q&A here. I have tried, and that's okay. The thing about me is I'm really stubborn and I don't give up. I like to say I'm just persistent and have a lot of resilience, but I'm not going to give up on you. And you may have to try 10 times. And even if what I tell people is my heart hurts as of the way I read the way you wrote that, is that even if you don't believe it's possible to enjoy your life again, even if you don't see how it's possible, when I started, I didn't know how it was possible. I wanted to believe that it was, but I didn't see how it was. I was like, well, how do you get from there to there? This, like, nobody's explaining this. Nobody's teaching this. I don't understand. When does it happen? When is the switch flipped and magically I'm ready? I'm ready to go. Yes, I'm here. I've arrived. I've hit the goalpost. Where is it? Nobody's teaching that. Nobody's saying that. Right? So, I started with the belief that I believed it was possible, even though I didn't see how. I chose to believe that some way, somehow, it was going to be possible, but I just didn't know. I didn't have a clear guide. I didn't have steps. I didn't have things to work on. I just believed that somehow it was possible. But for some people, you're not even to a point where you can believe it's possible. I will believe it for you. Okay, I hold belief and space for you that it is possible and that you can get there. I just need you to stick with me. I just need you to allow me to help coach you through that, because you may have a lot of thoughts that self-sabotage you. You may have a lot of negative self talk. So if you think things to yourself like, see, you shouldn't have tried. That was a waste of your time. Oh, see, you're not any good at this. Oh, well, you never could make friends. Why do you think you can make them now? Oh, you never follow through on anything. Oh, you just give up too easily. Those voices that are in your head, I'm going to teach you how to stop that. Okay. It's one of my favorite things to teach. Okay, chat. I think my health needs attention. So physically, I want to work on some things there. Perfect. I want to embrace the messy of growing, accept myself and my mistakes, and then also packing for Thanksgiving. Beautiful. I love it. Yes, very good. Awesome. Okay. So, for those of you that are not part of the community, I want to invite you to join because, as passionate as I hope you can tell that I am, I can't teach you everything that I've learned these past 3 years in like a 1 hour webinar. My goal is to give you value through doing some of these live free webinars and to help at least give you that one next step, at least give you an idea of what you could do, where you could focus or what you wanted to implement. But we also have the Brave Widow community, and that's a great place if you are wanting support, if you want like direct feedback and guidance, if you want accountability. Excuse me. If you want if you want to know, like, what is my exact next step? Like, what does it mean to emotionally heal your heart? We are going to be going through grief recovery method in the near future. Some of you have heard me talk a lot about that. That was very instrumental in learning tools about grief and helping me overcome guilt and yearning for what was. That's going to be coming up in the next couple of months. And then, of course, we have routine live calls and coaching that happens. We have access 24/7 in forums where you can come and post things. You can shoot me a message and ask for direct feedback. And I have all kinds of courses and workshops and things that are like on demand that you can access anytime. And the great thing is you don't have to consume all of it. So don't feel like, oh, there's so much here. I have to learn it all. You can start with your next step or one of the things that you want to learn more about. And so I am going to am offering another fast action bonus, but I'm actually calling it Better Than Black Friday. One of my coaches shared that. And so I am going to run this through Sunday. I'm not going to do a Black Friday special. So there won't be anything that comes out on Black Friday. But we're going to run it from now through Sunday night. So if you've already joined, you're in, you're locked in, you're good. You don't need to do anything differently for the members that are on today. If you haven't joined, then I encourage you to go to bravewidow.com/better. And the bonuses that I'm going to include for people that join between now and Sunday is the replays of all of our mastermind calls that we've had where I walk step by step through these systems. And every week is a deep dive into each of these systems. So like the chaos to calm blueprint that I have, I think that's actually 5 1 hour calls where you can step by step learn like each component of that system and module, and you get to watch that. So I have a mastermind that runs for 6 months. It started in August. So we just did yesterday, week 12. So we're right at 3-month mark there. So everything that we recorded to this point, and then everything that I'm recording with that group going forward, you'll have access to all of those replays. That group coaching module I sold for about $3,000. And then I'm also going to include a dating masterclass series that I've sold for $500. And you can access all of that for and everything in the community for if you want to do monthly, it's $47 a month. Quarterly, it's $97 a quarter. Which basically quarterly is 3 months. So you pay for 2 months and get a third one free, essentially. And if you subscribe before Sunday and lock in this price, this is always your price. So this isn't, that is one question I get frequently is how long is this price good for? It's good for as long as you're active. So as long as you keep your subscription active, that price will never change for you for access to all of this stuff. So I'm going to pause and see if there's any other questions here. Let's see. Okay, I don't see anything else here. I hope that this was helpful for everyone, and I love seeing we have a great combination of familiar names and new names on the webinar today, which is awesome. And I'm gonna check over here. Okay, well, I know we are right at time. And again, just real quickly, if you haven't joined that URL is bravewidow.com/better because it's better than Black Friday. What I'm sending out to you. And if you're on my email list, you're going to see that come out probably tomorrow as well, that I'll be doing that. So we have had 14 people join since the last challenge we did, which was November 5th through the 7th. We've had 14 people join and 2 more that are on the verge of joining. So we would love to have you too. And this is a great time to join as we walk through the holidays together. Thank you guys so much for coming and for your feedback. And I will see you next time.